Oh, hey Kelly, how are you today?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Really, really good. It's Friday. Obviously, new podcast episode goes out on a Friday, and we always do the recordings on it, so it's end of the week. So the question that I ask everybody when they come onto the podcast is, how do you like your coffee in the morning?
Ooh, I like that one. Um, Warm.
Warm, wet, and caffeinated.
Definitely. Yeah, the more caffeine, the better.
No, I absolutely feel you there. It's a live stream of any sort of business owner. Now, in today's episode, obviously, we're talking about you and your business, and the difference compared to some of like the other episodes is usually the business owner's been in it for about 3 to 5 years, or some 10 years, and a few bit more than that. And why I was super keen for you to come into the show is you're at the fresh start at stage, the really early stages, but obviously the field and the business that you're starting and then about to go into, you have been doing this for a whole number of years.
Yeah.
And so, can you tell me a little bit of like what is it that you do, and more importantly, why do you want to go and start this business?
Okay, so working with people, and I think everyone has those go-to things, those coping mechanisms that can be helpful at the beginning, but over time they can be detrimental to our health, to our well-being, and to those around them. So I want to be able to help and support people work out what it is that they're doing, and work through that. So not just looking at the what, but the why. So my background is in substance misuse, worked doing lots of different things in that for the last 16 years. And I've just learned so much about people. And I think there's so much stigma, there's so much uncertainty, I think, around people who use certain things, but we all have something. And I think I'd like to get away from that stigma and that fear, I think, of admitting that we might need something to help us.
And what's the like? I feel like we should just really dive in here because you make a really really good point on uh, addiction has this stigma around it, and that everybody has this like everybody has something, and the people who listen to the podcast are people who do want to make themselves better and who do want to get into far more like leadership and be more successful. But what is that degree of separation from what we perceived an addict to a high performing leader?
Good question. I think it's our perception, isn't it? I think depending where we live, what we do, um, what our job is, that can really dictate and make us sort of label people in different ways. And it doesn't have to be substances, it can be absolutely anything. Food, exercise, shopping. There's certain things that people sort of reach out for to fill a gap. But depending on what it is that people use can determine how we and society perceive them. So I think it's a question we can't answer. I think it's one of those questions that personally
Mm.
we have an opinion. We may not want to voice that opinion because it might not be acceptable, but a lot of
Mhm.
people do.
And it's, I think, really to contextualize it, how what sort of the symptoms to know you may have a behavior or a habit that is actually detrimental towards your goal that you're looking to achieve.
Um, if it's stopping you from getting to where you need to be, so if that is the priority, so if you wake up in the morning, the first thing you can think of is I need to buy some new clothes or whatever it is, that's the priority rather than actually I need to get the kids to school or have I got enough food on the table. So when that takes over, that's when it can be a problem. But it can be the small things as well. That's at the right at the top set end, isn't it?
Mm.
So if it's something that you can't stop thinking about, actually there's some work need to be done with that. Are you happy with that?
Mm. And I ask that because how when you're in the midst of let's take the business owner, and they know I want to increase my business by 10-20% next year. And you don't think, well, you hear all of these things about, like, you got to get up at 5 a.m. and you have to do this, and you have to do, you get to make your bed, and, uh, and yes, I believe that's like one routine to, how to become successful. But what it really actually highlights is not actually making the bed, or it's not getting up at 5 a.m. It's just more, what is the lifestyle, what are the habits that ultimately output this successful person. Because you have, I don't want to use the word discipline, because the way I say discipline, it's just more your habits and behaviors that reflect the goal that you're looking to achieve, rather than it being more of an extreme measures of, oh, I will never eat biscuits, for example, because I see them as bad food. It's like, no, you can have a couple of biscuits, but it depends on what goal you're looking to achieve. Like I always like to give like one of the bodybuilders on the stage, if they're 2 days out from the competition, probably might want to wait 3 days before you have those biscuits, sort of things, because that's not intrinsically going to help them their immediate short-term goal in that instance. And so how would you, this kind of leads in again, it's like, how do you go back to identifying some of the obvious stuff? Might be if you just can't stop thinking about it, but what's the less obvious stuff? And I'll try and give one of my examples. Was like I love wine. It's more I joke to people that I want to be a sommelier as that's my retirement job. I just like the idea of going to the south of Spain or the south of France and just talking to people. I'm talking about wine the whole time, not necessarily drinking it, just talking about it. The history, the geography, the all the aspects of it. But I do actually like drinking it and things. But drinking wine, like I'm talking like a couple of glasses a week here, guys, is fine. But my goal is to become, like, to compete at like the highest level competitions in CrossFit. Now that's where it becomes like diaposing, like how much wine can I drink in order to be that detrimental effect on, actually, do I sleep as well? Do I train as well? And do those 1% add up each week? Like, because that's 1% a week, that's 52% over time, and then it builds and builds and builds. Now, it took me working with a coach like yourself to get to this point. So how does other leaders be able to sort of identify those real tiny stuff?
I think that's key, isn't it? It doesn't have to be something that's in your face and a problem at that time, but it's that knock-on effect. So if it is impacting the lifestyle that you want, even in a small way, like you said, it's that accumulation, isn't it? So if someone is like yourself, wanting to be healthier, enjoys a glass of wine or whatever it is that the lifestyle that they're really wanting? Is there a reason why they're doing that? Do they enjoy it? Is it masking something? Is it a reward? Because sometimes it gets to the end of the week, doesn't it? It's like, oh God, I deserve that. What other ways can we see it? So I think it's our emotional relationship with it, as well as the effect that it has.
I think that's really good. That's a really, really good point. So if somebody has I think probably maybe wine and more sweet foods tend to be the go-tos. And I like that you brought shopping up as well. Having that instant gratification from shopping as you press those buttons. As a marketeer, we leverage that to get you to buy more. Isn't it great? But so it leads me onto the question: if somebody is looking to break that cycle, and they are looking to make those permanent, long-lasting changes, what's some of the tools that you would advocate for using? Now, I'll say this is general sweeping again, because not everybody's different. So it's just some of the general tools that you've seen work time and time again with a variety of people.
I think it's looking going, take it back to basics, isn't it? And looking at what you get out of it. Like you said, that instant gratification, we get that with so many things now. We expect something instantly. I think the most important thing is that people need to realise that if you're going to change a behaviour, it's not going to be instant. So it's working on that mindset that it's taken X amount of time to get to where I am now. It's not going to change overnight. So having realistic expectations and putting a plan in place. And like I said, everyone's different. So depending on what it is and where people want to be, it's those baby steps. So you've got that end goal, but actually, how do you get there? What can I do by the end of this week? Okay, I've done that. And you feel good because you've achieved something. So there's nothing, I wouldn't say anything specific, but it's just looking at everything, looking at the bigger picture. What's going to influence that? What could make it go wrong? So, yes, it's great to look at the positives, but you've also got to be realistic. What could happen that might make it easier to fall back to that behaviour? And what can I put in place now to try and prevent that from happening or minimise that risk of happening?
And I like that you also brought up there when it what happens when it goes wrong as well. So how do you help a person when it does go wrong? Because it will. If you're talking long-term goals, something's not going to go right all the time. We don't live in a perfect world. So what happens when it does go wrong?
It's being realistic. I think it's being honest at the beginning. So not having those false expectations that, right, you're going to come and talk to me, everything's going to be great, we're going to put this all in place, and life's amazing. Actually, yes, it can be like that, but along the way, there's going to be bumps. There's going to be two steps forward, one step back, and it's being realistic. It's being honest, and knowing that that person is able to manage that as well, because it's a two-way thing. It's not just that person wanting something and me saying something sort of completely opposite, or we've got our own agendas. It's working with that individual and seeing what works for them.
I like it. And so they're on this, just talking about this person, they're on a journey, they're really trying their best to change their lives and go for the goal that they want to. You're helping them to break down this big, massive goal into tiny, incremental little wins each week. So that it's like, great, I achieved this win this week. Um, and I also think rephrasing when it's not gone right. Oh, it's not a disaster if not gone right. It's like, okay, how can I learn next week? How could I have done it differently so that next week I don't do the same thing again? And it is,
Mistakes.
yeah, because it's the way the body learns very quickly. It's like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, and actually now I don't feel that great. Like I don't get that same hit anymore. And it is very it's highly emotively charged. So again, how do you bring in that more rational brain to kind of override that wonderful frontal lobe?
Again, it's that conversation. I think it's that being honest and not expecting the worst, because you don't want to set people up thinking, well, it's okay if I make a mistake because I've got a get out jail free card. But it's about being realistic, and things are going to go wrong or potentially go wrong. If they don't, amazing. But learn from it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. So I think a lot of the time when we make mistakes, we hide it. And whether we're speaking to a coach or doctor or whoever it is, we're not always 100% honest, are we? We hold a little bit back. So it's allowing that person to feel safe, knowing that
Mm.
if they tell you, you're not going to tell them off. They're not your child. It's their responsibility to do it for them. They're not doing it for me. It's for them. And I think taking ownership of it can make it easier to then be honest and say, actually, this didn't work. What can we do? How can I unpick this? And talking about it.
Really providing that safe environment,
Yes. Yeah. Because
that like,
people have got so many different things going on, haven't they? And talking
mm,
about this one thing could trigger something else. And I think it's really important that people come to you and they'll say, this is what I want, but actually, what's really going on? And things are going to get unpicked and uncovered along that journey. Therefore, you are going to make mistakes or go back to behaviour because, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this.
mm. And then, we're both British as well, and I currently live in the US, and it is a different culture, especially when we're talking about emotions.
Mm-hmm.
The very stereotypical British will go, "Oh, how are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, fine, good, thanks, fine." Somebody says that, like, it can mean anything. Literally could
It
mean
is.
they're all right.
It's a
But
standard answer. Yeah, it can mean. Yeah, it means. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, does it?
it doesn't mean anything because we're not trained to really just say honestly, like, actually how we're feeling, and addressing, like, emotions are absolutely fine. They are good. They should be talked about, and by providing that safe space, you can actually talk about it to then bring it to the surface to then go, okay, we can address it. We can use that. We can use this information to actually get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and we do feel better for it. At the time that we're talking about it, it's raw and it's real and it's not comfortable, but it's so much better afterwards. It feels that big weight that we talk about lifted off your shoulders. You feel physically different as well as emotionally.
And kind of final question on this. So, what are your thoughts when uh, somebody has one behavior and they switch it for, let me phrase this very particularly, they switch it for a behavior that is seen as more socially acceptable?
Yes, that happens. And I guess it depends on what it is and if that person is happy with that. So it's not about what I think and what everyone else thinks. Actually, is this better for that person? Are they happy with that change? Is it sustainable? Is it healthy? And we can't make decisions for other people, can we?
No, I bring that up because it's like it's a sometimes it's seen as a good stepping stone because it's like, say you've got a, I'll stay on the subject of alcohol. Say you have not a great relationship with alcohol, but then you then switch it for marathon running, for example. So it's people in society. I bring it up because people in society would then praise the marathon running. It's like, oh wow, you're doing amazing, you're doing great. But really, it goes to your point. Are you addressing the underlying issue or reason why you're then still attaching to something else and having that same emotional relationship, but you just got a different outlet. But you're not going to change it because now actually society is saying, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome."
Yeah, look at you, aren't you doing amazing? And it's again, it's that perception, isn't it? But what you're doing to your body could just be as harmful.
Exactly. And I'm just using marathon running as an example. It's a great way. Obviously, as I could put as exercise and good for your body, and actually, it might be a stepping stone in the long run to actually getting back to these issues. It's we don't want to just don't want to mask that intrinsic reason why. It's just getting to that root cause.
Yeah, and exercise is great, isn't it? It makes us feel better, and it is a really good thing to do. But everything is in moderation, isn't it? So it's not sort of sitting here saying, right, don't do this, don't do that. Actually, it's okay as long as we're in control of what we're doing and it's not the other way around.
Oh, exactly. Now, taking a sort of a left turn, obviously talking more about your business. Now, what was really interesting that you obviously said to me was that you're in a pre-prepping stage. And I would like to really dig into this, because one of one of the preconception notions of what a business leader is that they are will go headfirst into things. They are risk takers, and they run at miles an hour. And when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, no, I've got this pre-prepping stage," that gives off a different vibe. And I'm always really big advocate that a business owner and a business leader all look very, very different with the different approaches that suits them, because actually the outcome is almost still the same, sometimes better. Because people say entrepreneurs actually they're risk takers. They're not. There's really good risk mitigators. like, but and so I wanted you to just like say, what is that pre-prepping stage looking like for you? What are the things that you've been doing?
Wow, got a coach. So Anna, who I know that's been on the podcast. So Anna has been amazing, and it's talking to someone and being able to, I guess, hear your own voice. because a lot of the time it's all in your head, isn't it? So you've got all these different ideas or these different blocks, but having that outlet of someone who's not emotionally or I guess financially invested in my business, they can be honest. So it's a safe space to be able to get all of that out. So having a coach has been brilliant, but also just seeing what I can do, seeing what I am doing at the moment, and just I guess being careful, networking, meeting people, trying to get out on social media as much as I can, and seeing what's already there, not just sort of jumping in thinking, oh yep, I can do this. Actually, where do I fit in? What's already being done? Because obviously you can have more than one person doing the same thing, but you don't want to
Yeah.
be replicating or duplicating somebody else. What makes me different? What makes me stand out from everybody else?
No, I like that as well because that means, um, for I always connect this in marketing standpoints, you don't want to be commoditized. And because a lot of when businesses come to me, they say, "Hey, I operate in a price sensitive market," and it's like every industry is a price sensitive market. If that is the way that you market yourself, it is a real education curve because if you um like the list, the basic list is I come in with my experience, I come in with my people, I come in with my product. If you give all these reasons, this is also what your competitors will say. And if that's what your competitors are saying, you've got basically two products that look exactly the same. Well, of course you're going to go to the cheapest one. So I like that you're taking that time to look at it in the market, also find what's fitting you, what's fitting kind of your style, and also what's the real value that you're giving when you are working with people.
Yeah, because you've got to have that relationship, and someone when you're working with somebody, they need to trust you. They need to know you. And I think being out there and showing who you are and being honest, um, hopefully that helps. That's what I'd go for anyway.
And how does that feel, being able to put yourself out
Scary.
there?
It's not something that comes naturally. So in the work that I've been doing, I've done lots of training. So I stand in front of people, talk about lots of different things, but it's not personal to me. So put me in front of however many people, absolutely fine. But when it comes to talking about me, I'm a bit more guarded. But I'm learning to let some of that go because people need to know who I am to be able to trust me.
when when you're offering such a deep service, I say deep because you're asking your customers to be vulnerable with you. So how can they be vulnerable with you if you can't also be vulnerable with them and have that relationship?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, here is like I always talk about the vision, and if resources was endless, what would if your resources are absolutely endless, what would you really love to be able to provide and give to people?
Um, just for as many people to be able to see the potential they've got, for people to believe in themselves and to not hold themselves back. So to have that confidence.
I think that definitely should be your strap line. It's like just giving you like something like giving them the confidence to be the best version of yourselves.
I'll have to remember that.
And so yeah, so I think we've really covered some really great stuff here. Just how then people as an individual can better themselves, can to improve, and also in your business as well. Like how uh, you're in that point where it's like things are scary. You're going to be vulnerable, and I don't think that ever goes away either. It really doesn't. Um, but what is some of the sort of final question? What are some of the things from your career that you have learned that you have been able to transfer now into doing a business for yourself?
I think everything really, because when I started in the area that I'm in, I started off as admin, so it was a residential rehab. As admin, so I learnt every single stage that is needed in a business. So I think that can be positive and a negative because then I feel like I've got to do everything. So it's everything that needs doing. Well, I can do that. So letting go of things, I think, is something I need to learn to do. But I don't know, I've learned so much. I've learned about people, the different people that come in, and as seeing them as people, whereas society walking down the street might not even acknowledge someone, whereas I've got to know them, and you hear their story and you think, wow, if that had happened to me, I don't think I'd be here now. So that survival, that just how resilient people are, how strong people are.
Mhm. I think it was one of the, I can't remember who said this now, but definitely heard a quote where people don't really know and understand what their true potential is or their true resilience is until they've been tested. You know, we we intrinsically as humans we just want a comfortable lifestyle. You know, I'm sat in a very nice warm office and it's very comfortable, it's very lovely, you know, and you if I stayed in this office, I would get bored of it. I'm gonna get bored of the warmth. I'll get bored of the actually how comfortable it is. And we it almost sounds like we need that challenge. We need those resilience really to really understand, you know, how much we can do. Just going back to this, the element of confidence.
Yes, definitely. And it's when we're pushed the most that we can do anything. And I think it's in the times that we're not thinking about it and we just have to do, that's when we really see what we really like.
And so, if somebody was listening and say uh, they've I don't want to say hardship, but they've been really tested. They've been really, really tested. But they, you know, I see probably some of the most determined people are those the people who have been the most tested. You know, because there's that element of like I've got something to prove now. I've got something like that. You know, this stuff might have happened, but it doesn't mean that it's my identity or who I am. You know, how they want to talk to you um, to better their lives. What some of the things that they could do tomorrow that would help them?
Recognize it, I think, is the most important thing. Recognizing what they have done, acknowledging that achievement, and not sort of putting it out to other people. Because I think a lot of the time it's like, oh, they did this for me, or if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am. Actually, look at what you've done yourself. You have got yourself through
Mm.
that. And if you asking for help is the biggest, most difficult thing that anyone can do, and it's the most important. So I think it's acknowledging what you have done, not what you haven't.
I like that a lot. It's actually taking the ownership of the achievement of I'm only I managed to get myself into this new B position from A just because of some of the hard work that I did. And you reach, like I said, you've got if they're giving the ownership to somebody, it's like, oh, I won't be here for somebody else. But it was like, no, you worked with them. They had tools. You worked with them, and you know, they're only tools. I always say that it's like they're only tools. You have to put the work in with the tools in order to get the output and the position that they're in. So I like that a lot. And now, if somebody's listening to the podcast and they really resonated with you, Kenny, how would they be able to get in touch with you?
So LinkedIn is my sort of the main thing at the moment. As I said, it's early-ish days. So I'm still looking at other areas. So I'm on LinkedIn, which I think I know that you are, and you put this out on there. So connect with me on
Yeah.
that, and then we can go from there.
No, that sounds good. Again, I really wouldn't deter people that even though your business is still fresh and it's still shiny and new, you still have the years of experience of working with people from your career, which is absolutely, you know, invaluable. And you know that's one of the reasons, you know, one of many to why they should be contacting you. And I kind of speak from as somebody who's gone through this process of now being like the biggest advocate for it as well. I think everybody, even if you even if you're in a position where you think, oh, I can teach myself, oh, I can just learn off YouTube, oh, I can read a book. Trust me, I also did all of those things as well. I can cite several different books, different YouTube channels to go and watch and read. But there is something about having a coach, one, hold up a mirror to yourself,
Mm.
help you identify the differences between how you're feeling and actually your thoughts, and what those reflecting your actions back to yourself, and then also giving you a safe environment and accountability to how you can keep moving forward each week.
Yeah.
If I was going to summarize everything in one go, those are the things I would definitely, if you want to reach out to Kelly, that's what you'll get.
Thank you.
No worries. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to keep to do another episode with you sometime.
Brilliant. Thank you. I've loved it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.